the 31st Sunday of Ordinary Time. Now this means that we only have 3 more Sundays of Ordinary Time before Advent. And the liturgical year is like a scholastic year, an academic year, where at the beginning of the year, the professor might say, this is going to be this, and this will be in the exam, so you know. The liturgical year, we're coming up to the final exam, if you will. And there's a Moses, at the beginning of our first reading, is saying, this is what is expected, to love the Lord your God with all your mind, all your heart, and all your spirit, and your neighbor as yourself. This is the greatest, and that the Lord is one, because he's speaking to Israel, who is surrounded by other nations who have other gods. He said, no, our God is the Lord, the one God. And this is what this one God expects, that you love him with everything in you and your neighbor. Okay? And then Jesus, in a way, in the gospel, has the final exam. So the scribe, the professor, comes and says, okay, what do you say? And Jesus repeats the ancient law of Moses, to love your God and your neighbor as yourself. And they say, good, you've passed the exam. You do this. And then the scribe says, you really have it. You've got an A double plus. This week, it's been an interesting week liturgically, because on Thursday we had Halloween, in which everybody dresses up to be not who they are. And it's very cute. To be a princess or a football player or a space person or whatever, to dress up. And then the next day is All Saints, in which we celebrate the people that took off their pretenses and became more and more who they really are in God's eyes. They are the ones whom we celebrate, that they tried to live loving God and loving their neighbor as themselves. And they didn't pretend that they were this or that. They were who they are. And so we say they're saints, because they took off their falseness, their costumes. And then the next day, which was yesterday, we had All Souls, the commemoration of, in a way, all those who have gone before us in faith, and we remember their goodness. And we often say, if you go to a wake or a funeral, it's too bad that the deceased aren't here to hear the goodness that other people saw in them. And we celebrate how they tried to live loving God and loving their neighbor as themselves. The commemoration of those who are departed from trying to live without pretense, that they were saints as well. And then we have our liturgy, our call to see how we are doing as we prepare for the final exam. Is the final exam heaven, resulting in heaven? Or do we get heaven by what we do? Well, that's a bit of a negotiation, a bit of bargaining. And do we do enough? And did the saints do enough? And did the faithful departed do enough? And are we doing enough? What's enough? Are we struggling to love our neighbor as ourselves? Well, we don't love all our neighbors as ourselves. This coming week is also going to be very interesting here in the United States, because it's all about blue and red. And all over, at least our city, there's signs in people's yards, are you a blue dot or a red dot? And in our country, We don't love our neighbors who are that color or that color. We might feel sorry for them, or we hate them because they're a red dot or a blue dot. That's the exam. Can we love our neighbor as we love our own lives? And in doing loving our neighbor, is that somehow loving God? You can't love God with all your mind and all your heart and all your spirit. No, you can't love anything totally. It's all invitation. For Moses, it's a command. For Jesus, it's an invitation. Keep trying to take off your costumes. Keep taking off those things that prevent you from loving. Keep taking off blue dots and red dots in relating to God's family. So it's quite a challenge for us these days to not define ourselves by costumes or by colors and be angry or violent because somebody is different by their color, their language, to be different by for whom do they vote. In a way, this liturgy is calling us to vote for our relationship with God. We are promoting God to be our one God. Not our president, but our one God, the God of our creation and the God of our destiny. That is already, it's not that we're going to win God. It's not a trick or treat. You give me a treat, and I'll respond in a treat, and I'll get another treat. No, we are saved by the love of Jesus Christ, and we live free from red dots, blue dots, or black dots. We are lived by the sign of Christ in the Eucharist. This is the dot. This is who I am. This allows me to be freed from costumes and freed from fears. Am I going to make it? Am I going to get the big prize? No, it's already given. That's our faith. It's not that we have to win it. We don't win it. We prove it by how we live. We live it as a revelation of God's love, who was unpretentious. So the final exam for Jesus was how he lived, not what he said. The final exam for us is how we live because we're saved, because we are loved by a God that says, you can live without pretense. That's me and my living in you. That is how you fulfill and succeed in the final exam.